fertilizer plant. We will go live to that once it begins, but first, a check of the day's top headlines. Police in New Orleans say they've arrested a second suspect in the shooting that injured 20 people at a parade on Mother's Day. They identified the second suspect as Sean Scott, the brother of the man who has already been arrested and charged in that shooting. Forecasters believe North Texas was hit by 10 tornadoes last night, including one that claimed 6 lives and destroyed dozens of homes in Granbury. Now, they believe that twister had winds of up to 200 miles an hour. The county sheriff says 7 people are still missing. And coming up later, we'll get a live update from News 3's Clay Falls, who is there now. And the Powerball jackpot has jumped to $550 million, a major climb less than a day after Wednesday's drawing produced no winning ticket. Now, ticket sales have soared as the frenzy grows for a chance to win a big prize. The new jackpot for Saturday's drawing has a $350 million cash option. For the latest on these stories and more, stay with News 3 and KBTX.com.
Things finally starting to clear out of the area. This morning we saw some storms make their way through, very isolated, but we did see a good amount of rain out of that line. But leading into this afternoon, looking at skies gradually starting to clear out, seeing that sunshine peeking through, temperatures on the rise, and they're not going to stop rising. We're going to eventually hit that 90-degree mark before too long, and winds are going to pick up out of the south, bringing a lot of that Gulf moisture, allowing for a pretty humid afternoon. So it's starting to feel a little bit more like summer once you step outside, and especially into this evening, seeing temperatures in the mid to upper 80s at 5 o'clock, and then eventually cooling off to a nice cool 75 degrees by 10. We'll have a closer look at those rainfall totals and temperatures later on in full weather.
And as Carla mentioned off the top of the broadcast, we are awaiting a press conference in West regarding the investigation into the fertilizer plant explosion that left more than a dozen people dead, most of them first responders who were heading to a fire at that plant. There's some conflicting reports on when that press conference might start. It may have been pushed back, in fact. The report on the explosion, though, apparently has been finalized, and we're expecting to hear those details coming up sometime in this hour. And sources are telling the Associated Press that investigators still cannot rule out criminal activity as the cause in that explosion. If that press conference does happen in this broadcast, we will take you there live. But first, here is Jack Fink with the medical director for the city of West, who went back to where he was when that explosion happened.
There was a door right there just to the left where that major piece is down. I was underneath that.
Dr. George Smith credits God that he was able to get out from under the debris at the West nursing home minutes after the West Company fertilizer plant exploded. It's amazing that you're still standing here.
Yeah, that's what I look at. That's why I thank God for. He said I had more work to do.
Now, nearly 1 month later, state and federal investigators are set to announce Thursday what sparked the fire and subsequent explosion at the plant. Dr. Smith has been the city's medical director since he founded the EMS here 38 years ago.
It would be a relief to know exactly what happened.
Why? Why is that so important?
There are people that had blamed our firefighters who gave their life.
Initially, some people thought the firefighters caused the blast by putting water on ammonium nitrate that was stored in the facility and blew up. But the state said nothing could be further from the truth.
It happened just in a millisecond. It's hard to describe the force of that explosion.
At the time, Dr. Smith was in the nursing home trying to move patients away from the side of the building that faces the plant.
I was worried about the toxic fumes.
Not an explosion.
And I'm very proud to say that 127 residents left the nursing home alive.
None died there, but don't call him a hero.
The real heroes in this are the firefighters who, when the explosion happened and they saw their friends killed, they stayed there and fought that fire so there weren't more explosions.
It's Jack Fink reporting. Again, that press conference scheduled for sometime in this hour originally had been scheduled for 4 p.m. That may have been pushed back until as late as 4:30 p.m. The investigators in this case are actually speaking with family and city officials, informing them of some information. But there are Associated Press sources that have come forward to the AP and have told them, at least 2, that have said investigators have not at this point pinpointed a cause in the West explosion from back on April 17th, and there is one official who says they have seen the report, and they say there are a few different things that they are focusing on in this case. One of them actually may be a golf cart that was found at the scene that had been recalled by a manufacturer. They're also, in fact, looking at a potential electrical problem and, again, not ruling out any possible criminal activity at this point in time. So it seems like it's still pretty open, but they are starting maybe to kind of narrow the scope of this investigation. Again, officials are briefing family members and city officials at this point. We are expecting that press conference sometime this hour. Again, originally scheduled for 4 p.m., but maybe now pushed back as late as 4:30. We'll effort to bring it to you on air if it does happen during this broadcast, and if not, we'll have it for you online at kbtx.com. It is, of course, a Thursday edition of First News at 4, so we'll have Mike Wright and the right response. And also, Clay Falls is in Granbury, where another tragedy has occurred and a tornado has taken apart part of that city and cost lives as well. That is all still to come on First News at 4.
This is First News at 4 with Carla Castillo, Kaylee Carey with weather, and Focus at 4 with Steve Fullhart. This is KBTX News 3 HD. The people you know, the news you trust. Valley's first high-definition news, KBTX News 3.
Emergency officials say a Granbury tornado that killed at least 6 people also destroyed 19 buildings and 17 mobile homes. Now, 2 devastated neighborhoods remain sealed off, and the specialty search and rescue team known as Texas Task Force 2 was also deployed today to assist in that community. Now, News 3's Clay Falls is there and joins us live now. Now, Clay, you are from that area, and I know you go back every so often whenever you can to see family. Tell us what it was like to get there this morning and see this devastation in person.
Well, Carla, it really hits close to home. We cover a lot of stories. I've covered many tornadoes after doing news reporting for all these years now, and to see things here, to tell you about Granbury, it's really a lot like the Brazos Valley and Bryan College Station, where it's a very close-knit community. People are very friendly and giving and generous, and so it's really inspiring to see the town rallying around each other. Granbury's about a little less than 10,000 people and is a bedroom community of Fort Worth, but I grew up here and went to high school here, and my mom still lives here, and luckily she was okay. We had hail, golf ball size hail at our house, but didn't have any wind damage. But we got a first look at the damage a little while ago this afternoon around lunchtime. We were able to get inside. The police opened up the barricades briefly before they asked us to leave and kicked everybody out again. But there is literally devastation everywhere within that confined area. There, I saw houses completely blown out. It looks like a bomb went off or disaster movie like you see in Hollywood. But there's just debris everywhere. Things that were in a house, litter the countryside, from attic insulation to shingles. I even saw a cowboy hat just sitting by itself, and homes completely destroyed. And then up on these huge transmitter lines, you could see debris hanging from the top of metal awnings and things, just that typical classic tornado signs where you see things that were lifted up and then dropped down. The Hood County Sheriff, Roger Deeds, is giving a press conference right now. I'm going to sit in on that in a couple minutes to get the latest. But as you're saying, right now we know of at least 6 people dead and dozens were injured. They said originally as many as 100 people were injured and were taken to hospitals here in Granbury and then also in Fort Worth. And they had medical helicopters flown down from Fort Worth on standby last night. And I don't know the latest right now on search and recovery, if they think they found everybody, if everybody's accounted for. We're waiting to get details on that from the Hood County Sheriff. But it's just a very really dark day for Granbury and for Hood County. And they're definitely, the Sheriff earlier was asking for people's thoughts and prayers at this time, and just still trying to get a grasp of exactly what happened last night around dinner time.
And of course, you just mentioned what a dark day it was last night. It literally was dark, happened at night. But you see the image behind you now. It looks like just another beautiful day. Of course, even I feel like if we haven't been a part of a tornado or in one, we've certainly seen the images on TV of the devastation left behind. Now, is there anything that you have seen today that just absolutely stood out to you and just, I don't know, blew your mind?
I think just seeing that the houses, I was only able to get in there for just a few minutes, about 10 minutes before they asked everybody to leave, and then when they found out we were media, they'd opened there was some miscommunication. They'd opened the roadblocks, let everybody in, then they changed their minds and said everybody needs to clear the area. So we were able to get a little bit of video, but one house that I took a picture of, the whole top part of it was just completely blown, basically, to smithereens, I guess is a good word to use. But behind it, just you could see like looked like the whole block was leveled, and this was from probably a couple hundred yards away. We were not able to get right up close to it, but you could just see that along that whole hillside and ridge, just complete devastation. Carports completely blown off, cars damaged, and it just really awful sight to see, particularly knowing coming from here and knowing what people are going to have to go through now to recover.
Absolutely. Well, Clay Falls, we appreciate your report. Of course, he will have more coming up at 5, 6, and 10, but for now, we will turn it over to Kaylee.
News 3 weather and the Pinpoint Forecast team brought to you by the Bank and Trust. Local bank, local bankers. And now, local weather.